What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. And in today's video, I am going to be talking about the super team that almost happened. Now, this is the second time I made a video about a super team that almost happened. My first one was about 2 months ago. Go check that one out. I'll put a link in the description. But this one was relatively recent, this trade. I mean, because the one I made 2 months ago, that took place in 2012. This one took place a little bit before this year's trade deadline. Also, I know I said I wouldn't make a video until the finals was over, but I wanted to upload this, So in today's video, I'm going to be discussing the Houston and Miami trade sending James Harden to the Heat, how this would have benefited Houston, how it would have benefited Miami, and if it was a fair trade, and if it was fair that Miami said no, and they're not to be blamed. So let's get right into it. So James Harden, as you know, was obviously wanted out of Houston, so he requested a trade. So Houston was looking for offers, and they were originally going to send him to Miami or Philly or something like that, but they gave an offer to Miami, sending James Harden to the Miami Heat for Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Precious Achiuwa, a salary filler, so like a Goran Dragic or like a Trevor Ariza type guy, just to make the money work, 2 first-round picks and 4 second-round picks. Now, if you're Miami, you think this is a lot, but you're getting James Harden. And they did say no in the end, but not for the reason you would expect. The Miami Heat thought that James Harden was an untouchable, or the Miami Heat thought that Tyler Hero was an untouchable piece, and he could turn into something big for them. Now, this kind of reminds me of when the Thunder offered the Toronto Raptors a trade, sending Harden to the Raptors in return for Valanciunas, Calderon, and Terrence Ross and some picks and whatever. But the main reason the Raptors said no was because they thought that Valanciunas could be like an MVP candidate in the future. Now, obviously, that didn't work out, and this didn't work out for Miami. We've seen Tyler Hero, and he is not untouchable, and I don't think he'll be untouchable anytime soon. But if this trade went through, there's some main things I want to point out. I think that this team, with a big three of James Harden, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo, we've seen how well Butler and Bam work together because of them making the finals last year. We've seen how good they work together. And imagine adding James Harden. Now, if you're Miami, you are losing a little bit of depth because you're giving up your starting shooting guard, your backup shooting guard, and your backup center, along with picks. You're destroying your future. They're all pretty young, too. You're destroying your future if you're Miami. You're going all in if you trade for Harden. And I'm going to talk about, first we'll get to Houston's side, and then I'll talk about if I think Miami could have won the title with this big three. Houston is getting extremely young. You get a nice young piece, Tyler Hero, who's not bad. Duncan Robinson, you get as well. You also get Precious Achiuwa, along with your relatively young core like Christian Wood, Kevin Porter, Kenyon Martin, the second overall pick, and maybe I'm missing someone else. I don't know. But you get the point. Houston would have been extremely young. And it's better than what they got when they traded Harden to Brooklyn, where all they got was Victor Oladipo, who ended up turning into Kelly Olynyk. So if Miami had said yes, Houston would have been in a much better place than they are now. Because when Houston a while ago traded Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook, they also had to give up 4 first-round picks in order to get Westbrook. So you can tell that Houston was behind on picks. They would have gone 2 first-round picks here, 4 seconds. Would have been good. Now, hear me out. This kind of might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think that this team would have been better than the Nets' big three. And not team around it, because this team is not deep at all. You probably have to Kendrick Nunn at the point guard, Harden at the 2, Butler at the 3, Reeves at the 4, and Bam at the 5. But with this team, you get a great facilitator in James Harden, great playmaker. He can score whenever he wants as well, alongside with Butler and Bam, who work well together. But yeah, this can definitely be better than the Nets. Now, I know maybe skill-wise or on paper that in terms of skill, the Nets look better, but I think this team's a little bit better. So with the Nets, that big three, they were 3 ball dominant players. They wanted to have the ball in their hands. They had to have the ball in their hands in order to get to anything. And it led to some chemistry problems, leading them to lose to the Nets losing to the Bucks in 7 games. But I think this team would just look well together, or just play well together. Yes, you still kind of have a ball dominant player in James Harden, but we've seen in his time with Houston when Clint Capella was there that he can pass the rock too. He can throw lobs to Capella, and Bam Adebayo kind of represents Clint Capella in this scenario. So it's basically Harden and Capella, or Harden and Bam. But then you add Jimmy Butler, who also is a great playmaker too. Bam Adebayo would be the defensive anchor, and Jimmy Butler is also an above-average defender. You let Harden do his stuff on the defensive end, or on the offensive end, and this duo, I think, just chemistry-wise, would work so well together. So that's why I think they'd be better than the Nets. Last thing I want to talk about in this video is how this team could have done in the playoffs. I think they would have beat the Bucks because Miami had no shot against Milwaukee, and it was due to all the star players playing terrible. Now, Harden's not the best playoff performer, but I think that they could have still beat the Bucks, maybe in 7 games or 6. I know the Bucks are in the finals, and we've seen how good they are, but I think the Heat can honestly beat them in 7 games. And now they wouldn't have played Brooklyn in the second round because Brooklyn was obviously the 2 seed this year. But if Harden went to Miami, he obviously wouldn't have went to Houston, or he obviously wouldn't have went to Brooklyn, therefore making Brooklyn not the 2nd seed because Brooklyn was just average before Harden. So that's where it gets confusing. So I'm just going to come here and say it. This is the best team in the East. The Miami Heat with Harden are the best team in the East. Yes, I don't know how much times I have to say this. They're losing depth, but this is the best team in the East. They could beat Philly. They could definitely beat Brooklyn without Harden. They can beat Milwaukee. I don't think there's any other notable teams in the East that are any good. And now the finals, this wouldn't have affected Phoenix whatsoever, so Phoenix still would have been in the finals. I don't know if this team could have beat them because both these teams would have had great chemistry, I think, in my opinion. So in the end, it comes down to star power, and obviously the Miami Heat, Harden, Butler, Bam, they have way more star power than the Suns. I think that this Miami Heat team could have won the title. So if you're a Heat fan and you're going to go to sleep at night thinking, wow, we didn't get James Harden, all because we thought Tyler Hero was untouchable.